And on the line we have with us from NBC Sports, the lead MLB writer, Craig Calcaterra. Craig, how you doing today?
Doing well, thanks.
So I wanted to start off with this whole Yasiel Puig thing. I mean, I feel like this is a soap opera. It is only fitting to be in Los Angeles because of the fact that first you have the whole situation with the disgruntled issues, then he gets sent down to the minors, then he gets claimed on waivers, and the Dodgers can't make a trade. So what is the next chapter in this saga?
Man, I think the next chapter might even be more fun than we realize because he has been absolutely raking down at AAA Oklahoma City, and their season goes through September 11th. You got a choice if you're the Dodgers, right? You're in a tight pennant race. You could call him back up if you want to and maybe have a nice offensive injection. The Reddick, the guy they traded from, they got in the trade from Oakland to replace Puig in right field, hasn't been hitting at all. The Giants are on your heels. Maybe you call them up, and that's the real big decision the Dodgers have. I think it wouldn't go over very well in the Dodgers clubhouse, but that's a possibility. Other possibility, you just send him home after the Oklahoma Dodgers season is over. Try to trade him in the offseason, but he has value. He might be controversial, but he is still a very young, very talented player. He's showing right now that he is capable of being a transformative offensive force. So the Dodgers have a lot of decisions to make.
Do you have any hypothetical theories on who this unnamed team was that tried to claim him?
Well, there was one report I saw from it was from Jim Bowden of ESPN and SiriusXM, and he said that it was more of one of those block claims because the way waivers work is it's in reverse order of your record, and so a team that didn't want a team that they were in competition with to claim Puig blocked him, claimed him in order to prevent the other team from doing it. We don't know who it might have been, but it could have been anybody. My guess is it's probably in the AL East simply because that's a very close, very tight race.
Craig, looking at the NL West as a whole, the Dodgers have a 1.5 game lead on the Giants. What do you think is going to be the difference down the stretch?
Well, Clayton Kershaw coming back will be a big difference. He's very close, it is reported, to being activated. He could make starts again, and if he's effective, that'll be huge. But we're not going to know anything about this until the end of September. They have 6 games against each other in the last week of the season. They do a series in LA, play someone else, and go back and finish the season in San Francisco. And my guess is they're going to be well within 6 games of each other when that series kicks off. So we're going to have a very nice end of the season for the NL West.
Staying in the National League, it looks like overall it's going to come down to only a couple teams for the wild card. We know the Cardinals, the Giants, and a couple other teams are involved. But one of the big strike blows is it looks like the Mets are going to be without Neil Walker for the rest of the season. Are the Mets just running out of ammunition at this point?
They have undergone and dealt with so many injuries, and the fact that they're still surging right now is crazy. Obviously, getting Yoenis Cespedes back and having him hit well has helped, but between Duda and Wright and now Walker, it's been amazing that they've been able to get anything here. They're calling up Michael Conforto, who really hit well on his latest stint down at Las Vegas. So if he can look like he did at the end of last season, they'll be able to weather it a little bit. But it's going to be really tough. But at the same time, who they're up against right now, they don't have anything going well either. The Marlins lost Giancarlo Stanton. They've really been struggling lately. The Cardinals have suffered all kinds of injuries themselves. You can never count them out. The Pirates just lost Garrett Cole. There's really not a huge, strong team for that second NL wild card if you presume that the loser of the Dodgers-Giants race is going to get the first one.
We're talking with Craig Calcaterra of NBC Sports. You can listen to Craig Calcaterra on NBC Sports Radio, the 24/7 live sports talk network, which you can listen to on NBCSportsRadio.com and download the NBC Sports Radio mobile app today. Craig, sticking with the wild card races over in the American League, we can pretty much assume at least one of the AL teams is going to get in there, whoever doesn't win the division. But how much are we going to also look at the Tigers and the Astros coming down the stretch to possibly make life difficult for that third AL East team?
You got to look very, very hard at the Tigers and the Astros, especially the Tigers, and a huge reason for that is the schedule. In the AL East, the Blue Jays, Red Sox, and Orioles all play each other multiple times. The Yankees have definitely turned it on lately, and they're no slouch. So they're going to just be beating up on each other all September in the AL East. The Tigers, meanwhile, they play both the Twins and the Braves in September, and there's a lot of games there. I think it's something like 10 games against those two teams, which is insane when you think about it. So that's something that they can definitely feast on. Yeah, the Astros, I've been trying to not count them out all year, but here they are again. They're still hanging around, still strong, still a very talented team. So I would have to give the Tigers and the Astros, and heck, even the Royals, they don't have much margin for error, but the Royals have come on a lot lately. Maybe an advantage or not over the fading Orioles, for example, who haven't been pitching well, and they're under 500 for their last 75 games. Not a very good team right now, riding on a very fast start.
Is Jose Altuve your AL MVP candidate at this point?
I think he'll win it, especially if the Astros get the wild card. I think he'll win it. I don't know if I would vote for him. He's certainly a spectacular player. I tend to be one of those guys who likes just the best overall player. I don't care if he's on a contender or not. If you have to go on a contender, Josh Donaldson's not a bad candidate for back-to-back MVP. He's having a year that's just as good, if not better, than last season. Has definitely helped the Blue Jays surge. And then I know no one likes to hear it, but you know what? Mike Trout still is the best player in baseball, having another wonderful year. If you are a fan of the advanced metrics like WAR, for example, he is like a game and a half better than the next best guy in the AL. That's a pretty significant gap. So he won't win it because that's not a very good story, but he's probably the best player going.
Speaking of Trout, I feel like he is one of these few players who is the best player in baseball, who seemingly year after year is on a team with the Angels who just can't seem to get out of their own way. It's kind of a twofold question. I mean, to me, are the Angels ever going to be competitive as long as Trout is there? And is the only way they will get competitive is when Trout leaves?
Well, that's a very good question. I think right now it's very difficult to see the Angels being competitive at any given time. Trout is still young, so he could certainly be on the Angels, and his contract's long enough right now where he can be once they turn it around. But they have a lot to turn around. They've got probably the worst farm system in all of baseball. They've got a huge contract that they're paying Albert Pujols that is looking like one of the worst contracts in baseball history right now. He'll hit a home run once in a while, but he's certainly not worth what he's owed. And then Mike Scioscia, the manager, and Artie Moreno, the owner, they don't seem to be all that inclined to just tear it down. I think you can rebuild the Angels without trading Mike Trout. It's going to be a multi-year process, and you got to find a way to keep him happy in the meantime. What he reminds me of right now is Al Kaline. If you're a baseball historian, you'll know that Al Kaline had some of his best years for the Tigers in the 50s and early 60s when they weren't really competitive. When they finally won the World Series in 1968, he was an aging player who was still important and still had a great World Series, but he definitely was past his prime. That might be what a competitive Mike Trout on the Angels looks like.
Is Mike Scioscia the one manager who seems to be lasting the longest for no good reason except for the fact he won a World Series over a decade ago?
That's pretty good. I don't know anyone. I mean, we had a couple of years there in a row. Remember, they signed Josh Hamilton. They signed Albert Pujols. They signed C.J. Wilson. They had some of the biggest. Yeah, I mean, but these were all like big free agent contracts that made a huge splash in the winter. And then those teams all just completely cratered, and they were probably bad signings. But there's a sense that they were directed largely by Mike Scioscia and by the owner who loves him. And I don't know any manager who could have had that many high-profile failures and failures to live up to expectations who kept their job. He seems to be bulletproof, and I think it's just because Artie Moreno loves him.
You can listen to more of Craig Calcaterra on the NBC Sports Radio, the 24/7 live sports talk network, which you can listen to online at NBCSportsRadio.com and download the NBC Sports Radio mobile app today. Craig, appreciate the time.
Cool. Thank you for having me.